The planetary Stargate system are the Earth's connection points or portals into the galactic and universal Stargate systems. These portals were once sealed off, but are gradually opening up as a great spiritual awakening or ascension is sweeping through mankind. More people are experiencing a shift in their consciousness and leaving behind societal programming and vibrating at higher frequencies, ascending higher into the metaphysical plane conscious. These Stargates are said to not only lead to planetary and galactic Stargate systems, but to the fifth dimension or 5D, which is the future. Originally, there were 12 tribes guarding the Akashic records, which are a collective of all universal events, thoughts, words, emotions, and intent to have ever occurred in the past, present, and future, in terms of all entities and all life forms, not just humans. These records exist in the metaphysical and are sometimes referred to as the Emerald Tablets of Thought and the Tablet of Destinies that Enlil possessed in Mesopotamian narratives of the Anunnaki. These 12 tribes are genetically intertwined with the Anunnaki genetics, as the Anunnaki were the ruling class of deities on this planet and still to this day. The Anunnaki leader, Enlil, is deemed God in Abrahamic religions and most others. These Anunnaki deities are depicted in all ancient ruins across our world, along with some other alien species. Enlil's chosen lineage was the Semitic lineage of Shem, and from this lineage comes the 12 tribes of Israel, because in modern times, like I said, Enlil was the god top-tiering most religions. Israel, Isis, Ra, El. These 12 tribes first appear as the 12 tribes of Israel and are called the chosen ones of God, but we never get a grasp of what they were really chosen to do outside of normal foundation figures for any nation. The only ones who seem remotely close to being chosen are the Levites, the lineage of priests. We have the tribe of Reuben, who actually lost their blessing because Reuben had an affair with one of his father's concubines, aka his stepmother. Judah, who like a lion, will rule the people and defeat his enemies. Isaac, who's like a strong donkey, whose lineage will submit to forced labor. Gad, whose raiders will raid him and he will raid them right back. Naphtali, who like a doe makes beautiful words. Benjamin, like a wolf, eats in the morning and divides spoil at sunset and serves as security and protection. Simeon and Levi, who ended up massacring the city to take revenge for their sister Dinah being raped, and then their father Jacob turns around and curses them for it and says they will be scattered into a new nation. But Levi was ordained as the tribe of priests, and they actually have their own book of Leviticus. Where's the others in their books? And Simeon seemingly gets nothing. Zebulun, the tribe ordained to be great men of the sea. Dan, like a serpent, will judge other tribes and serve as an obstacle. Asher, who will enjoy and produce rich food. Joseph, like a fruitful boat, will get all the best blessings and will dominate other nations. You see, each tribe has its purpose, no doubt, and a few are actually blessed. But this couldn't have been what all the hype was about and all the prophecies were about of the forecoming of these 12 tribes since the time of Abraham was about. Many just assume these people are just God's favorites and chosen 12 lineages who protect and have a responsibility to uphold God's law and word and way. So perhaps in the editing and manipulation of the Bible, maybe we only receive a limited scope of what these 12 tribes' roles really were. And perhaps they actually had another task that will make all this hype make sense, such as being the gatekeepers of the 12 portals on Earth. Just like, what if the 12 zodiacs are actually entities that are the 12 gatekeepers of the galactic realm? Let's get into it then. King Nebuchadnezzar II is said to have opened an eternal fire, a Stargate of his own. And this is the exact same king that enslaved the tribes of Israel and then exiled them, where they then fled to lands they physically blend into and hence seemingly vanished and became known as the lost tribes of Israel. Now, King Nebuchadnezzar II is most infamous for reformation and the expansion of the Babylonian Empire in the 6th century before Christ. In biblical narratives, King Nebuchadnezzar II had Daniel as his dream interpreter. Funny that he would open a Stargate and also imprison the so-called Stargate keeper. Just a little background on the land of Babylon. Mesopotamia was the first civilization directly after the flood, and most people today know it for its southern region that is actually its eldest region called Sumer or Sumeria, which is called Shinar in the Bible, the land that King Nimrod led his entire family, all 3 lines of Noah, to in Genesis chapter 10. Mesopotamia became Babel or Babylon after the Tower of Babel situation, of course, and then it also became the Akkadian Empire, the Assyrian Empire, the Hittite Empire, the Persian Empire. The Mesopotamian land is present-day Iraq, Iran, Turkey, Syria, and Kuwait. As you may have noticed, the turmoil in these lands has never stopped since the beginning of time. It is almost as if the land itself is cursed. It never goes through peaceful times, and it has since the dawn of time been a sought-out part of the world to conquer. This desert land. Why? Because all of the ancient happenings in this place. That's why. The secrets of mankind that is considered forbidden knowledge is all here in this land. Some found, some still buried under the earth here, or simply gate-kept, leading to outside nations overbearing interests and getting their paws into the politics and control of these lands. Also, ironically, 70 years into the Israelites being in captivity in the Assyrian and Babylonian empires, the Bible began being officially written and had uncanny parallels between itself and the Mesopotamian creation, flood, and Garden of Eden stories, which predate the Bible by multiple thousands of years. If you don't get the point of how this is ironic, let me spell it out for you. It is ironic because originally the land that was once considered ancient Mesopotamia later became the Assyrian and Babylonian empires, meaning the legends and tablets would still remain in this land where the Israelites were at that time in captivity at, meaning the beliefs of the people in these lands were still present during the time the Bible was being written, meaning the Bible was actually heavily influenced by these ancient Mesopotamian narratives. Not only would the Bible mirror the narratives of the Mesopotamians, but so would every religion to date, and every other ancient belief system would also parallel with these Mesopotamian narratives, confirming their authenticity. However, the religious version would of course become corrupted and manipulated versions of the Mesopotamians' accounts. So what really is the U.S. government issue with these Middle Eastern territories? Why did we go to war with Iraq? Saddam Hussein, y'all remember him, right? Saddam Hussein quoted himself as the new Nebuchadnezzar II and actually believed he was Nebuchadnezzar's reincarnation. People thought he was nuts, of course. But the truth is, this world is as magical as we thought it was when we were innocent little kids. Before, we were programmed to see it as dull and magicless. Reincarnation is possible and occurs in more belief systems than not. And these belief systems predate the belief systems that denounce reincarnation. Saddam Hussein prided and branded himself as being the reincarnation of King Nebuchadnezzar II. Why was this a problem for the world, specifically the United States of America? Nebuchadnezzar's sole goal was to open the fiery furnace, a Stargate. Nebuchadnezzar conquered Egypt and also went to Jerusalem, where he then destroyed Solomon's temple in 597 CE. And then he brought the wise men, 3 of the wise men from Solomon's temple, back to Babylon with him. The 3 wise men then were forced to enter the fiery furnace Stargate. When they came back out perfectly fine and intact. But they came back out with another entity, an extraterrestrial, what mankind at that time would have considered a god, a deity. The war on terror was about the Stargate and Saddam Hussein gaining access to it. We were not in Iraq pursuing oil, and we are fed that it was for both oil and weapons of mass destruction. A Stargate is a top tier weapon of mass destruction. It was all fine and dandy for America, for Saddam to have this power back in the 80s. By the time he decided to switch sides, of course, this was a big no for America. Everyone used to joke about how hard it was for the United States military to locate Saddam Hussein, but if Saddam had this Stargate, he could go wherever he wanted to, teleportation style. There are other portals on Earth, and 12 major ones, as well as various wormholes. Apparently, the Stargate in Iraq is found in Nasiriyah, which is a city about 230 miles southeast in the ancient city of Ur. And inside of this city is a great ziggurat, which contains the Stargate. Quick history on the city of Ur now. The world's first city is Uruk, which we call Ur. The first mention of any city being built after the flood occurs in the book of Jubilees, chapter 7, verse 13, where it says, "And Ham, whose real name is Cam, knew that his father had cursed his younger son, and he was displeased that he had cursed his son, and he parted from his father, he and his sons with him, Cush and Mizraim and Put and Canaan. And he built for himself a city and called its name after his wife, Neotamiyuk. Neotamiyuk is the mother of the Kemetic race, because Ham's real name is Cam, K-H-A-M. And the description of the location of this city Cam wrote for his wife is exactly where the city of Ur is located. Ur is actually short for Uruk, which was named after the ending of Cam's wife, Neotamiyuk. Genesis 10 and 8 says, "And Cush begat Nimrod. He begat to be a mighty one in the earth." The book of Jasher elaborates that Nimrod became the king of all the lines of Noah. And so when the Bible says that he became a mighty one, it fails to go into detail. Jasher does, and how great a man Nimrod really became. He was the world's first king of kings following the flood. Genesis chapter 10 and 9 goes on to say he was a mighty hunter before the Lord, it is said, even as Nimrod the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel and Erech and Akkad and Calneh and the land of Shinar. Now, this is describing Nimrod's kingdom. Allow me to break these lands' names down in this verse to you. Babel is, of course, Babylon. Erech is Uruk, which is the city Nimrod's grandfather Cam settled, the world's first city after the flood. Akkad became the Akkadian Empire. Calneh is mentioned as being a city on the bank of the Tigris and Euphrates, which is where ancient Sumeria was at. And Shinar is Sumeria. All these lands make up Mesopotamia. And the book of Jasher goes on to basically say that later King Nimrod, the grandson of Cam, became the ruler of all the lines of Noah and made his brethren and uncles royalty over the Semites and Yaphites. And Nimrod brought the knowledge of the fallen angels into the new world, and this was called paganism. And thus the Kemetic lineage spread this forbidden knowledge into the new world instead of leaving it behind, as Noah and his 3 sons and their wives had promised to do in Mesopotamian narratives of the flood story. Because this forbidden knowledge was one of the reasons that Enlil, aka God, had sent the flood in the first place. The other reason being that Enlil thought the earth was way too overpopulated with humans. So this means the Kemetic lineage, the line of Cam, who the Bible calls Ham, this lineage gate kept the knowledge of the old and also kept in communication with these extraterrestrials we call gods. So it makes sense that Cam would build his first city where a Stargate was at, because he didn't let that knowledge go. He held on to it, and the Kemetic lineage gate kept it through time, even to this day. Now, most people think this territory of ancient Mesopotamia was first brought about by the Semites because it is in Shem's land today. But Jubilees explains that between the time of the ark actually landing and Noah actually officiating allotments, 300 plus some years had passed. And in this time, Noah's sons had went settling cities wherever they wanted to with no outline. And that Noah then saw this and officiated allotments to prevent further chaos, as at that time, King Nimrod had the Kemetic lineage placed as royalty and elites because Nimrod had enslaved and oppressed the Yaphites and Semites, which are the children of Japheth and Shem. So originally these lands were Kemetic, and so were the lands that spurned from them, such as ancient Egypt, which is called Kemet after Cam's name, and the Indus River Valley civilization, where these Kemites left in opposite directions to settle new lands. Ironically, control of this same Stargate was the interest of the Nazis and the British during World War II. Saddam Hussein wanted to restore this temple and apparently did get the Stargate back working. And this is when the United States government's ears peaked, as they knew that now Saddam Hussein had tapped into ancient advanced knowledge and contact to the superior advanced beings that spearheaded our civilization in the first place. So the government, in theory, believes Saddam Hussein had advanced technology and knowledge that he was going to not only use as a premise to rise to the leading force on this planet, but also release forbidden knowledge to the general public, disrupting the programming mankind agreed to with the Anunnaki gods following the flood for the sake of mankind's own good. And that served as a big reason for the Bush administration to go into war with Iraq to stop Saddam Hussein. Since then, it has been said that more and more people have came forward saying they were involved in classified programs where advanced technology is found all across the planet in usually isolated or abandoned ancient ruins and desolate places of society, and that the ziggurat of ancient Ur in modern-day Iraq was just one of several places. For more discussions of conspiracy theories or odd and unusual things that happen on this planet or in outer space or anywhere, please like, comment, and subscribe. I will not let you down. Also, what are some conspiracy theories you would like for me to talk about? Because I've heard a lot, but obviously I haven't heard them all. Please comment down below and let me know.